All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to dive into one of the most incredible journeys imaginable, how a human being is made, from that first spark of genetic code all the way to the very first moments of life. And for anyone studying psychology, really getting a grip on these foundations is absolutely crucial for understanding the child.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that kind of messes with what we think we know about genetics. I mean, we've all seen identical twins, right? They look alike, sure, but are they really identical copies?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting. The paradox is right here. Identical twins share the exact same DNA blueprint, and yet they can have totally different personalities, different talents. One can even develop a health condition like diabetes while the other doesn't. So if it's not the DNA, what in the world is going on? Well, the answer is in this fascinating layer of control that sits right on top of our DNA.
To really get a handle on that extra layer, we first need to take a quick look at the blueprint itself, our DNA. You can think of it as the ultimate instruction manual for building, well, every living thing. You know, what's wild is that this molecule is basically universal. The DNA in a pea plant, a lab rat, or you, it's all the same chemical stuff. The only thing that's different, the only thing that makes a plant and you, is the order of the letters in that code.
And this is just mind-blowing, right? We are all so similar. Over 99.9% of your DNA is identical to every other person on this planet. That tiny fraction of a percent difference, that's where all the magic happens. That's what holds all the variation that makes each of us a completely unique individual.
Okay, so if the blueprint is almost identical for all of us and exactly identical for twins, where do all these differences come from? Well, it turns out the blueprint isn't set in stone. It can have notes written on it, kind of like an editor's marks on a manuscript.
And that brings us to the epigenome. Now, this doesn't change the actual letters of your DNA. Instead, it acts like a whole series of light switches, telling your genes when to turn on and when to turn off. And here's the kicker. These notes, these switches, can be flipped by your environment, by your diet, by your experiences throughout your entire life. Okay, so you're probably thinking, sure, but that stuff is personal, right? It happens to me, and then the slate gets wiped clean for my kids. And for the most part, you'd be right. But as it turns out, not always.
See, there's this massive reset button called reprogramming that happens early on, and it scrubs the genome, erasing almost all of these epigenetic tags. But, and this is the amazing part, about 1% of them are somehow protected. They actually survive that wipe and can get passed down from parent to child. We call this epigenetic inheritance.
And to see just how powerful this is, let's look at a classic study with rats. It shows how even behavior can pass these marks along.
So what researchers saw was pretty incredible. The more a mother rat licked and groomed her pups, the more it physically changed the epigenetic tags on the genes that control their stress response. High-nurturing moms literally produced calmer, less anxious pups.
And get this is the really crucial part. Those nurtured pups grew up to be nurturing mothers themselves. This is a huge deal for developmental psychology because it shows how an experience, in this case nurturing, can get transmitted across generations, not through the DNA sequence, but through these epigenetic marks shaped by early life.
And it's not just rats. We're seeing hints of this stuff everywhere in the biological world. Plants getting attacked by caterpillars, their kids are born with better defenses. Water fleas get a whiff of a predator, their babies pop out wearing tiny protective helmets. And maybe most fascinating of all, historical records from a small town in Sweden suggest a link between what a man's grandfather ate and that man's own risk for diabetes decades and decades later.